Hello everyone, tis I, Jack from Cultaholic.com, here with a new series on Cultaholic, the first of a new series which is going to be shared by myself and that wonderful man, Adam Pacitti. This is Graded, where I take a look at Monday Night Raw, Adam's going to take a look at SmackDown Live, and we're going to just basically grade every segment and give you our thoughts on what we think of the show. Now, don't worry, because we're not trying to say that this is the be-all and end-all. You know, if you agree with our opinions, fair enough. If you disagree with our opinions, fair enough. Don't get cross about it. Just get a bit of sensible discourse and debate going. I don't know why I'm saying that, because I know as well as you that the YouTube comment section is literally the worst place in the world. Now, before we start with this week's Monday Night Raw, I'm just going to go through the grading system. So we could have gone through all the different like B+, B-, C+, C. We're just going to go A+, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Those are the various different grades that we're going to go through. None of this C- nonsense, no D+s out there. It's going to be A+ only, and then each other letter in its standard form. That's the way we run things here at Cultaholic. I don't know why, I just think it's probably a little bit easier. And how, really, what is the difference between a D+ and a D segment in wrestling terms? I don't know, it's my show, it's my classroom. Look at this desk. Now, I should point out before we begin in earnest that this show was helped by another big factor, and that was the crowd. The crowd were really hot for this show, and as you'll see, some of these segments, which perhaps would have been lower grades on any other show, were actually boosted up a grade by the fact that the crowd was really hot. It took place, of course, in Bizarro World, Canada, where WWE tries to convince us that, you know, everything's bizarre. They cheer for who they want to normally boo. They boo for who... They cheer for the Canadians and for the cool heels, particularly smarky audience. This one specifically was from Montreal, Quebec, which obviously has a really important part to play in wrestling history because it was the site of the Montreal Screwjob and also the home region of the home province, Quebec province. How do things work in Canada? It's the whole area of two of the biggest stars on Monday Night Raw. So we'll see how that plays out, but let's get straight on with it and look at the opening segment. I've realized that I say let's get straight on with it about 5 times in the video before I get to the actual point, and no one's picked up on it yet. So I've just ruined it for myself there. Without further ado, let's get straight on with it. Check my shopping list. Let's get straight on with it. This is Monday Night Raw Graded. Now, we open the show with Roman Reigns, who of course got massive boos from the Montreal crowd. They hate dogs up there, big or small, but particularly big ones. Roman came out and basically proclaimed himself the real Universal Champion. Well, we all know that he touched the floor first in that cage match at the Greatest Royal Rumble, but at the same time, do they really want to own up to their mistake and say that, like, this was a bad decision? Yeah, apparently they do, because a tweet from Chad Patton appeared on the Tron. They didn't just flash it up for the home audience, they flashed it up on the Tron. A tweet from Chad Patton saying, "I'm sorry, I saw Brock Lesnar go out first. I was concerned for the well-being of both men, and I made a call based on their safety. I was concerned for their safety." That's a lovely sentiment, Chad. But at the same time, I think you've been made a little bit of a scapegoat here, and I feel bad for you. Let's all just take a moment to acknowledge that it wasn't really Chad Patton's fault. Poor Chad. Come round for a coffee, Chad. Don't worry, Chad. Chad. Don't get many Chads in England, so I'm quite fascinated by the name Chad. Chad. And then basically from here, this segment devolved into a little bit of everyone wants to take a shot at Roman. Everyone should really kind of want to take a shot at Brock, considering he's the Universal Champion, but everyone wants to have a go at Roman for some reason. Joe appeared on the Titantron. Obviously, Samoa Joe's over on SmackDown now, but they're still wrestling at Backlash this Sunday, and he, did his thing where he just goes, "Ha, you're rubbish, Roman, and I'm going to compound your misery this Sunday at Backlash." Then Jinder Mahal came out and said, "Nah, you lost fair and square to Brock Lesnar at the Greatest Royal Rumble, and now you're going to lose fair and square to me tonight." And then Sami Zayn's music hit. He got a monstrous pop, the kind we haven't seen for Sami Zayn in quite some time, even during the latter stages of his babyface run. He said, "Now I want to face Roman Reigns," and then Kevin Owens, the real big dog in Montreal, came out and said, "I think the crowd want to see me face Roman Reigns." And he was quite correct, to be fair. It all turned into a bit of an argument. The crowd clearly wanted to see Owens versus Reigns, but he walked up to Reigns in a big old, like, "Come on then," and Reigns just took his head off with an uppercut. It all devolved into a brawl with the heels beating down Reigns. Then Lashley ran out to make them save. I don't know why Lashley's friends with Roman. Then Strowman ran out to make the save. I don't know why Strowman's friends with Lashley. I know they tagged together recently, but I still don't really know why. They probably just looked at each other and went, "You're big man, you're a big man as well. If we team up, no one's going to be able to stop us." Maybe they're just creating a super stable of big men. Big old men. No, I can't just shout big old men at the camera. Oh dear. So the babyfaces chased off the heels, and this set up a 6-man tag team match for later on in the night, which I'm pleased to say wasn't actually the main event, you know? It was sort of halfway through the show, and they saved the main event for an actual title match, which I respect that, WWE. I like that. You know, sometimes these opening segments set up the main event, and you got to wait for ages for it to happen, and it pushes other matches that have been built up, you know, more in the long term to the lesser important slots on the card. But this time that didn't happen, and I think it all worked out pretty well. This segment was good, apart from I don't really understand everyone's motives, especially the baby faces. I don't understand why the heels all want to take a shot at Roman, and I don't understand why all of the baby faces want to team with him. I don't know why Roman's the focal point, apart from the fact that we all know that Roman is the focal point in real life. But anyway, after a long and quite complicated opening segment, I'm going to grade it a B, because I think even though it was a little bit confusing, I think that the crowd energy really helped to like improve it a lot. I thought it was infused with electricity throughout because everyone was so hot, especially for Zayn and Owens. And I think I'm pleased that WWE didn't try and do the thing where they push a heel out in their hometown and try and still portray them as a heel. I like that they embraced the cheers. So this gets a B. A solid B. Next up, the first match on the show. Elias came out and was about to do a concert and was then cut off by Bobby Roode, which we've seen very recently indeed. They wrestled last week, I think, on Monday Night Raw, where Elias won. This week, Elias won again by Dr. Stoppage because he was relentlessly targeting the throat. Is this Ring of Honor? Like, what's going on? That's not the sort of thing you usually see in WWE. In fairness, it was a WWE style match, and it was a little bit slow and plodding, and I get after a really hot opening segment you might want to calm the crowd down a bit, but at the same time it may have cooled them down too much. And also, I feel really bad for Bobby Roode. He needs help, he needs a heel turn, he needs to get out of this feud, because at first I thought that Bobby Roode was going to beat Elias in the eventual big blow-off match, and that would help propel him back up the card. However, it now looks as though Elias is the one getting a push, considering he beat his opponent so badly in the throat that the match had to be stopped. I'm giving it a C. I was confused by the point of it, but at the same time, I'm pleased for Elias. It wasn't bad by any means, which is why it hasn't dipped below a C. I just didn't find it that exciting either. I found it interesting and strange. Interesting and strange. Much like, I was going to say much like Ross, but that's a bit harsh, isn't it? Next up, we went straight into another match. The Authors of Pain versus two little Sami Zayns, two like Quebec jobbers. I think they were called John Paul and François. I don't know if that's what I've since seen reported online when I looked for their names. I don't know if that was a joke thrown in by the guy who wrote the match listings that I found. Oh, have I just been horribly presumptuous? I'm quite worried now that it was just the match listing that I read and it was the guy having a joke and I've just repeated it. It was the Authors of Pain against two men that I have been led to believe were called John Paul and François, but I actually don't know if that's true or not. It was a simple squash match. The Authors of Pain then cut a promo afterwards, spoke a bit of English actually. They've been learning, they've been improving. And I'm giving this a C as well. It was a squash match, it was entertaining for what it was, but at the same time, didn't really add too much to the show. I get that they want to keep the Authors of Pain in the back of our minds, but they don't want to give them a title shot straight away, purely because, you know, Bray and Matt have just won it and they don't want to take the belt straight off them again. But I don't think it'll be too long before we see the Authors of Pain with the Raw Tag Team Championship. So gets a C. Gets a C. Next up, we had Seth Rollins, the Intercontinental Champion Seth Rollins, who came out to a monstrous reception. It's almost like the crowd knew that this was the first episode of Graded and really wanted to push the grades up as the show went on. Rollins was really popular, of course. He even spoke a bit of French to the crowd. I think he said merci or merci beaucoup for the Intercontinental Championship, the cheering and all that sort of stuff. He said he was a fighting champion and that he didn't want to be anything like Brock Lesnar. Please give us that match. He also said that Roman Reigns should be the Universal Champion. Please stop having Rollins kiss Roman's arse. We don't really care that much. I like that he fired a shot at Brock. I don't like that he had to be used to reinforce Roman Reigns' apparent win. Like, just when you need to get other popular babyfaces to put your supposed big babyface over, maybe stop it. Maybe stop that immediately. To be honest though, that was the only weak part of this segment. Finn Bálor came out and said, right, we've had some good back and forth battles. I want a shot at your Intercontinental Championship tonight. And Rollins went, you know what? I'm the GM now, apparently. I'm going to give you that shot for the main event, which is a great main event. Rollins versus Bálor, two of the best workers in the company. Then they were interrupted by the Miztourage. Still billed as the Miztourage, still using the Miz's entrance music, which was a bit confusing, but they made up for it in terms of comedy. They got in the ring and said, no guys, you shouldn't be fighting each other, you should be fighting together, and we should have all had a group discussion. Then they unveiled these horrible custom-made t-shirts with the four of their faces on it and proclaimed themselves to be the new Four Horsemen of the WWE, which I've found very, very funny indeed. indeed. The babyfaces beat them up, and that would have been an okay segment. It was then pushed to an even better level by the fact that Bálor jumped Rollins afterwards when they were celebrating, and it led a bit of an edge to the main event match. So this gets an A, a comfortable A, this segment. I think this may have been the best thing on the show, certainly the best non-wrestling segment on the show. Next up, Ruby Riott, and accompanied by the Riot Squad, versus Sasha Banks, not accompanied by Bayley. She's just on her own. And that was the story of this match, as Sasha lost to Ruby Riott because Ruby's friends kept interfering, and Sasha has no friends because she's mean to them all the time. I don't know why we're supposed to act like Bayley's the one who's being, unfair by not supporting her friend. Bayley's got her own wrestling career to worry about, and I just don't think that you should help out Sasha if she's been so mean to you all the time. Remember the Elimination Chamber match? Remember when she Lion Kinged her off the side of the pod? I'm getting quite hyped up. I need to just calm down. It's only wrestling, Jack. It's only wrestling. But no, this match was... how was it? How was it as a match? It was okay. It started off quite sloppy and quite sluggishly, and then at one point, Sasha Banks locked in the bank statement, and the Riot Squad distracted the referee, and sort of Ruby was able to escape. With the help of Liv Morgan, I think she pulled her hand towards the edge of the ring. From that point on, the match really kicked into a higher gear, a much better gear. If the whole match had been contested at that sort of tenacity, I'd definitely give it an A. Sasha was hitting moves that I've never really seen her hit too much before. Like, she did her standard knees thing, but she did it from the inside of the ring to the outside while Riot was on the apron in the corner. Really, unique spot with really clever positioning. Eventually, Ruby Riott got the win because Sasha went up to the top rope, got distracted by the Riot Squad. She went, get off me! And then Ruby Riott hit the Riot kick and picked up the pinfall. So I'm going to give it a B. I was going to give it a C, but then as I was watching it, it really started to improve, and I thought, you know what, it's actually a little bit better than average. Also, not a fan of the pre-match promo where Sasha went, if Ruby wants a riot, she can bank on it. It's written, so script written. Give them bullet points. They're meant to be wrestlers off the dome. Bank on it. Next up, we got another Alexa Bliss anti-bullying public service announcement kind of deal. I'm not sure how to think of these, because I like the whole idea that Alexa's trying to portray Nia as the bully after weeks of bullying Nia. I like that, and it keeps her heel momentum hot since losing at WrestleMania 34. And losing the title, it still keeps her relevant even though she's lost the belt. At the same time, couldn't they have dropped the controversial aspects of it, like the whole body issues stuff? Like, she keeps on mentioning food in these promos, which I get that the biggest difference between Alexa and Nia is their size, but at the same time, it's a bit... She could pick so many more things to pick at Nia for, and portray her as a bully. She could just lie about her, which she is doing, but she could just lie about things that don't necessarily have to involve food or eating too much. I don't know. I found it a little bit distasteful still, but at the same time, it was an improvement. The food was less of a central theme, I guess. It was more about Nia being mean. So I'm going to give it a B, a reluctant B, just because it keeps Alexa relevant, and no one does heel promos better than her that I can think of right now, certainly on the Raw roster. Next up, the Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt video package. They didn't appear on the show in terms of a match or an in-ring promo, but they had a backstage promo where they just basically said, we've been together through history and we've dominated history. Oh, I know that my thoughts in the past about the whole broken woken thing have been quite controversial, and then obviously I met Matt Hardy in person, which I wasn't expecting, so I had to sort of change my opinions in case he killed me. But at the same time, I did legitimately find this funny. It was the rubbish photoshops. It was the rubbish photoshops of them in the background of key historic moments celebrating. I can't not like that. I like the thought of them planning it out and having to Photoshop it themselves. I really enjoy that whole implied thing. Oh man, I'm giving it an A. Shut up. I'm giving it an A. Shut up. Don't at me. Don't at me. But at Jack the Jobber on Twitter. Next up, the big six-man tag match that was alluded to in the opening segment. That was, once again, the three Canadians, Jinder, he is Canadian, Sami Zayn, and Kevin Owens against the babyface trio, or the kind of babyface trio, of Roman Reigns, Bobby Lashley, and Braun Strowman. I'm going to call them the Golden Trio because they're kind of WWE's Golden Boys, or have been at various points in history. They're like the past, present, and future of Golden Boy status. Lashley was a prior Golden Boy, Roman's the current Golden Boy. Could Strowman be the next Golden Boy? Maybe so. Maybe so. I'm really impressed with myself there for coming up with that. Oh, I'm way too easily impressed with myself. This match was harmless fun, really. It was just kind of house showy, but not house showy in the way that Triple H versus Cena was house showy. It was house showy in a big fun way, where they were all throwing their big moves at each other. The best part of this match was when Strowman got the hot tag and ran Riot. I really enjoy how he's starting to make this a regular thing where he runs around the outside, just trucking people out of the way. It's so sort of chaotic and amazing to watch. It's just pure old school wrestling. The big guy going crazy and knocking smaller guys out of his path. But you're cheering for the big one as well. It's brilliant. The babyfaces also picked up the win. The heels sort of reassumed control. Then Kevin Owens went to whip Jinder into Strowman in the corner, but Roman dived into the ring and cut them off with a big spear. It really took Jinder out of the equation, leaving Kevin Owens and Braun Strowman to fight off in the middle of the ring. Strowman won with a power slam, 1, 2, 3, and the babyfaces stood tall. Gonna give it a B. It wasn't the best match on the show, we'll get to that in a bit, but it was certainly fun to watch. It was entertaining, and it was nice to see. Just a bit of a shame that the Canadians didn't win in their home country, but they were the heels. They were the heels, sort of. Next up, Baron Corbin versus No Way Jose. This was strange. For earlier in the night, Corbin mocked Titus O'Neil for falling over at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Nothing special there. We all mocked Titus for falling over at the Greatest Royal Rumble. Poor guy. Oh. And at the end of the promo, well, this was a backstage interview with Renee Young, and at the end of the interview, Corbin went, "I don't know what you're doing hanging out with him," to Renee Young. Like a high school jock. You're like, "What, nerd, why are you hanging out?" What was that about? Does Corbin fancy Renee Young? I think Ambrose will have words to say about that when he gets back from injury. He probably won't. He'll probably be a heel and go for the Shield. That's what I want to happen, at least. I really want that. But this all led to a match between Corbin and No Way Jose, where Corbin cut a pre-match promo saying, "I'm here to make money, not to make a fool of myself and fall over. I smash people in the teeth." I think teeth was a theme of the promo. No Way Jose came out, who obviously Corbin had beaten down last week on Raw. They had a match, and then Titus came out, and I don't know whether I liked it or not. It was quite funny. He went down to interfere in really slow fashion. Dana Brooke and Apollo Crews were cleaning the runway or the ramp so that he didn't slip on the way down. Got on the apron, big comedy bump on the apron, fell off. Corbin laughed at him, and then No Way Jose rolled him up for the pinfall. It's always fun watching Baron Corbin be humiliated, especially when he'd been built up as a big old bully earlier in the show. But it was a reference to the Greatest Royal Rumble slip, and we all knew they were going to do it. And it wasn't much of a match either. I'm going to give it a C, just an average C grade, just purely because it's the first overt reference they've made on TV to the Greatest Royal Rumble slip. And if they just leave it there, or gradually diminish it there and then bring it back in a few months once as a surprise, that's fine. But I don't think they're going to do that, are they? They're going to do this week after week after week after. But this was the first one, so I'm giving it a pass. I'm giving it a C. Next up, Natalya versus Mickie James. Alexa was in Mickie's corner. Ronda Rousey was in Natalya's corner. There's not much to talk about here, really. Alexa tried to get involved. Ronda chased her around the ring, and Natalya grabbed a roll-up. Then Alexa hit at the top of the ramp, and then Nia's music hit, so Alexa ran away through the crowd. And all the three babyfaces, Natalya, Nia, and Ronda Rousey, stood tall in the middle of the ring. They were all happy. I didn't even know whether to give this a grade, but I guess I'll have to, just because this is so clearly building up to things in the future. I don't really know how to grade it in a moment itself. I was pleased to see Ronda still very popular with the crowd, and she's really quick when she runs around the ring as well. Wow, look at her legs go. But it was okay. I'll give it a C as well. I'll give it a C. I'm just throwing C's out there. Just throwing C's out there to the mid-carders. Not Ronda Rousey, Mickie and Natalya in that. Next up, a little backstage promo with Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre, which I'm actually not going to grade, purely because it wasn't long enough, and it was just them saying what they've said in promos previously, so try harder next time, lads. Actually have a match, kick someone, do some wrestling. And finally, the main event, the Intercontinental Championship match between Seth Rollins and Finn Bálor. This, I'll just say it right now, this gets an A. Wonderful main event stuff. Both guys went all out there. It was obviously more intense than a standard TV main event because it was a title match, and they both expressed that really well. There were a lot of good counters, they were hitting big moves out of nowhere. You could tell they were both really well scouted as well. I enjoy when two wrestlers have been facing each other for a while and start reversing each other's moves more. The best one of these was when Rollins did his superplex into the Falcon Arrow, but when they stood up, then Bálor hit the Falcon Arrow on Rollins instead. That was really cool. I like how the big sort of V-trigger style knee from Rollins is no longer his finisher, but still works as an effective secondary move in his arsenal. I like the finish. Bálor went for the coup de grace, Rollins rolled out of the way and hit him with the curb stomp. All really exciting stuff, and I like that Rollins retained as well. I think he's a good Intercontinental Champion for now, and I think that Finn's maybe better off feuding with someone else or something, or maybe he's going to turn heel after his sneaky antics recently, but I like it. It was a good finish to the show, the crowd loved it, and they saved the best of the show till last, so I'm giving it an A. The first main event of Graded gets an A. That's really good. I'm happy. I'm really happy with that. So finally, let's just round things off with an overall grade. I'm going to give the show a B on balance. I think there was some good stuff and there was some average stuff. Nothing underneath a C, which is really consistent actually for Monday Night Raw. So I'm giving it a B. I would have given it an A, usually, just because the crowd was so hot and stuff like that. But remember, this is a go-home show for Backlash, and I don't really feel as though they tied it in with Backlash enough. I think there was too much of like a look back at the Greatest Royal Rumble and too much of like, oh, this is going to happen at Backlash, but we set it up before the Greatest Royal Rumble, so you all kind of forgot about it. And they didn't really hammer anything home. There was nothing on this show that made me more excited to see Backlash, and I guess that's the point of a go-home show. So I think this was verging on an A, but that really pulled it back for me. But still, check out the main event if you haven't seen Raw. It was very good indeed. So, gets a B. Gets a B. Graded. Oh, isn't this fun? Look at my classroom. Fun. Thank you very much for watching the first episode of Graded. Pachidi will be here tomorrow with SmackDown's version. And there's not much more to say. I've been Jack from Cultaholic.com. You can follow me on Twitter at JackTheJobber. You can follow all of us at Cultaholic. And you can check out our Patreon as well if you want. Patreon.com/Cultaholic. And never forget, obviously, to join us. And hand in your homework next week, you rascals. This teacher gimmick's not for me.